You will not find happiness until you separate yourself from the things that are making you unhappy. So welcome back to my 6 things that I stopped doing to make me happy series, and let's get straight into it. The first one, finding out your personality so you can learn how you can learn better. One of the things I realized is that a lot of people assume just because someone learns one way or someone does something one way, if it doesn't work for them, that thing doesn't work for them. Because we're coming out of a school system from kindergarten to 12th grade where everyone is taught the same and everyone eats the same and everyone does everything the same. But I think you need to realize we are not the same. Even though we were structured like that for so long, we are not the same. So you need to figure out, how do you learn better? So they have personality type A, B, C, D, and I even heard about O. Not too familiar with that one, but those are the 4 major ones. Now, I don't know everything about every single one. I know I'm primarily a personality type C, a little bit of an A, and that just means I'm very strategic. I'm very much so of a planner. I'm very goal oriented, that kind of individual. Some people might not be like that. And so maybe if they watch my videos, they're like, I know what she's saying, but I don't really connect to her. Or maybe if you watch my video about a topic, but somebody else explains the topic, but you like mine better, possibly it's because I have a similar personality type to you. So it just makes more sense. That's why I even have like the whole whiteboard series where I explain steps on how to achieve things such as discipline and consistency, but I actually break it down on a whiteboard to show you, because that's just how my brain works. There are some people who are not good like that. They rather have someone sit down and tell them a story or explain to them, or maybe you're creative and you can just think of things when someone says something. That's not my personality type. And I feel like everyone needs to learn that. Like, once I learned my personality type and then started learning things based upon my personality type, it was easier for me to understand sometimes someone is saying something good, it's just not good for me. Like, don't take everything such as, oh, this makes no sense and this person doesn't know what they're talking about and this, that. Sometimes it just doesn't work for you. And instead of going in one direction, trying to follow other individuals that are telling you, live your life like this, wake up at this time, do this. If you learn your personality type, you can start learning habits of your personality type. And I feel like you will just like it more. Like, now that I'm learning what do personality type C's do, I'm starting to get to a point of like doing things for that personality type and actually liking it more. Contrary to just watching someone make a video about how to change your life and how to do this and how to do that, and assuming just because that person achieved great things and that a person got to great heights in their life, that's going to work for me, because it's not always going to. So one thing I had to do was figure out my personality type so I can figure out how best can I learn things for me. Going off of that, stop learning from experience solely and actually learn from learning. I think the problem that a lot of individuals have is that we have this idea that once we experience something, once we fail at something, and once things don't go our way, we've learned how to achieve that thing. Mentioned it on a whole bunch of videos before, my experience of losing my business, so on and so forth. One of the things that I realized, I had a bad relationship with money. Now, instead of me going, you know what, from that situation I learned I shouldn't do this in a business. I learned I shouldn't do that in a business. I learned this is how I need to budget my money, and that's how I need to budget my money because I didn't do it previously. That's one step. But another step is actually learning, actually reading books on how to start doing investing, actually reading books on how to learn how to budget. Like, don't get me wrong, it is great to learn from experience, but don't use that as your only sole purpose of learning. If you have experienced something and it did not go well for you, that's a pain point for you. That's something that you need to start getting more information about and more information on, and stop convincing yourself that, oh, you're just going to learn through experience. If you have experienced something and it didn't go the way that you wanted it to, and it didn't go the way you liked it, especially more than one time, that's a pain point for you. And yes, you might learn it after 10, 20, 30 years. I'm not saying that you won't, but if you want to speed up the time of you learning something, actually use those times of you learning from things to actually go out and learn those things. Like I said, from books, from podcasts, maybe courses, maybe whatever the case has to be, but stop having the mindset that you can only learn from experience and you should solely learn from experience, because that's just one key component of it. But if you only use that as a measure of you knowing something and you learning something, then you're not going to get as far as fast. And we don't know how long we're on this thing called life, and if I can speed something up, I will. So that's one of the things I had to do. Like, Stop thinking I can solely learn from experience. And if something is triggering me, if something I've been experiencing or I went through, actually use that as a key indicator that I need to actually put focused attention on learning that thing, and not just say, oh, I'm gonna just, in my next relationship, I'm not gonna do this. In my next business, I'm not gonna do that. Yeah, but what are some other things that you can learn too that you possibly don't even have to make the mistake the second time? Because then we go a second time through the same thing. Okay, and now we make a longer list. Now I know this, 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 that. A third time, now I know this, 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 that, this. And the list keeps getting longer and longer of the things that we're learning through experience. But if you would have just took time to learn that thing, you wouldn't have to waste all that time. The next one, audiobooks. So as you guys know, I'm very much so into books. I talk about it on a lot of my videos. But another thing too, I feel like a lot of people don't really get into audiobooks for a plethora of reasons. One, because I think there sometimes is a negative connotation in the reading, in the book space of kind of like, oh, you didn't read the book, you listened to it. And then two, I don't think people understand how easy it is to access audiobooks. Like you literally can go on YouTube sometime and search in the book and search in the author, and there's a lot of books that are on here. You don't even have to pay for them. And especially for books that I want to read, but maybe the content inside of the book is dense. Like the words that they use probably are very difficult to read, or maybe I just think the book is boring. Let's just be completely, well, maybe for me, I more so do that as well because I want to create content for you guys. But every single thing that I talk about, there's not always an exciting book or like a book from an author that I really like. And sometimes I had to get myself out of the habit of forcing it. Like I literally will force myself to read some books. And I was just like, well, why don't you search this book up and you can listen to this book? And then also, some people just don't have the time to read a book. Like you really want to read a book, but just in this moment in your life, you don't have the time for a number of reasons. And so instead of telling yourself, okay, I'm going to read it next month when I have time, or the next month after when I have time, why don't you start getting into audiobooks? I mean, there are paid ones as well, but also if you want to start out with the free ones, especially in like the self-help and self-growth and, self-development space, there are so many books. I had to get out of the habit of feeling like I have to read every single book. And now I listen to a lot of books, and it's great because I can listen to a book while I'm washing clothes. I can listen to a book while I'm cleaning the house, while I'm on my way to work. And I don't know, I just never really thought of that being a thing. I recently got into audiobooks not too long ago, but I have been reading for a while. But I don't know, there was just this negative connotation of like, I'm not really reading. And it's like, well, either you're going to get this information or you're not. You pick or choose how you're going to get it. The next one. Stop feeling like the life you live is the only option that you have. And I'm going to create a whole video on this because I find this topic to be so interesting. I kind of went on a deep dive on it and I love it so much. But I think one of the things, especially, and I don't necessarily want to speak on mental health too much because it is something that it's not a one size fits all. And I do understand that. But I think a lot of people go through just depressing times and very sad times because we live this life of feeling like we only have one option. And I did too for a while. And I really sat back and was like, if I really wanted to, I could apply to law school right now and then become a lawyer by the time I'm like 30, 31. Like I could. Like it sounds crazy. I'm 24 years old. Like most people by 24, they stay in the field or at least in the area that they were for the rest of their lives. Whether it's the career, whether it's similar careers for the rest of their life. But it's like a lot of us feel hopeless sometimes and we feel like I don't know what to do with my life, but it's because you have a mindset that this is the only life you live. Like at 35 years old, at 45, like stop having this mindset that you get to a certain age and you can't change your life. And I know I talk about change a lot in my videos, but also changing your life on the aspect of career. Like when I talk about a lot of change, I say, oh, having more confidence and having more, creating boundaries. And those are great in the personal aspect. But when it comes to the professional aspect and really any aspect in your life, you know that you can change at any age. Like I recently was talking to my sister and she was saying how her stepmom moved to a different state. And they were all like, her whole family was like, what's wrong with her? Da, da, da. She's in her 30s or so. Like she's up and moved. And everybody's like, what's wrong? And I was just saying, what's wrong with that? And they were like, she doesn't know nobody out there. Da, da, da. Why do people think that? Because we have this mindset that once we live a certain life for a certain amount of time. We can't, like, you literally right now can pick up your life and leave. And I always recommend this to people who, I don't want to talk about too much of heavy topics, but people who feel like they have no hope, people who feel like sometimes they don't want to be here anymore, or whatever the case may be, my advice to you, I don't care if you have $2,000 in your account, I don't care if you have 3,000, 4,000. Before you make a hasty decision, I want you to move to a different state, possibly even a different country, and at least exhaust everything. Like, and you legally, we can change our entire name. You can move right now. I mean, few people might know me because of social media, but if I wanted to, I can move to LA, change my first name and my last name, stop talking to my family for the rest of my life, tell people that I came from an affluent family from so-and-so, or I came from the struggle, whatever the case may be, build up a persona like that, and that is who I am, and I can be that person for the rest of my life. Like, I don't think we realize how many, there's people who actually do that in real life. You would never think it. Sometimes it's your teachers, sometimes it's your doctor. Like, if you would have knew them 20, 30 years before, you would have never thought that was going to be them. And I don't know, I think it sometimes has been making me happier lately because I've been looking at life like this is a life that I chose. And anytime that I want to, I can change my life. Like, you can. We feel like we can't. But if you look at life like that, I don't know. I guess just for me, it's been making me happier because this is just an era that I'm going through right now. And I'm welcoming this era and I'm loving this era. But if any reason I want to change this era and literally do something completely different, I will, because I know I can. And I don't know, I just found that to be so interesting. And I think we don't think about that enough. And even the people who feel like they're happy with their life, you can think about that too. Like, it doesn't have to be, oh, I hate my life, da, da, da. Just think about it. And like I said, I'm going to create a whole video about that. So stay tuned for that. I think I'm going to drop it next week. But you don't have to live the life that you're living right now. You're choosing to live that life. So no, you could choose something else. I don't know. That was just interesting to me. The next one, saving my ones and also saving my fives. Earlier this year, I started doing this thing of just like saving my money. And every single time I would get a $1 bill, I would just save it. I have a coin purse inside of my closet and I just will put it inside of there. And as time went on, I started noticing it getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And the reason why I started doing it is because when we were younger, a lot of us had like piggy banks and stuff like that, right? And our families, our moms, dads, sometimes would put like a couple coins in there. If you were lucky, you might get $1 or $2. And I was like, well, I kind of want to start something like that as well because we have saving accounts. But when it comes to physical money, it's so easy for us to just spend it. And or just stuff we don't need as well. So I started doing that. And now we're in October and I'm looking at all the money in there. And every so often when I add another $1 or $2 or $3, I count it. And I'm really like, wow. Like, all this money probably would have went on something that wasn't of value. It would have went on something that was probably just $1, like a churro, or, you know what I'm saying? Like, something that I really didn't need, like the random things that we spend between $1 to $5 on. And now it kind of gave me the motivation of next year, I think I want to start doing fives. This year was not a five. Okay, this year was ones solely. But I'm kind of like, next year, I think I want to start saving all my $5 bills. And I think it's a great thing because one, it kind of does help me budget, I guess you would say, a bit. And then two, I guess it's just a reflection thing, but it makes me realize how much money I probably would have spent on stuff that wasn't beneficial to my life. And it gets me to know you can save. Like, a lot of times we convince ourselves that it's hard for us to save money or we don't have money to save. But like, you can start with ones. You do not have to start with fives, tens, 20s, hundreds if you a big baller shot caller. But I don't know. I've started doing this and it genuinely has made me happy because I've been saving money. And I've been doing it in a way to show me that you don't have to spend money on like dumb stuff all the time like we usually do. So I recommend everyone to do that. Like, have a little coin purse, have something that you have in a trusted space that no one knows where it is, and start just with saving once. And after 6 months, after a year, I mean, listen, right now, everybody don't know, but that's their Christmas presents, you know? So depending on what I make and I put in there, that's Christmas presents. I saved Christmas present money since January without even thinking about it. Like, I mean, it could be a plethora of things. You can save it for a trip. You can save it for, I don't know, whatever you think you could be saving it for. Or you could just save it just to save it. You don't even have to have a real reason for it. Because when I started it, I didn't have a real reason for it. But then as the money started getting up, I'm like, you know what? This might be my Christmas present money. Just to make sure I don't spend it over. You guys are getting the leftovers, as you should with Christmas presents, because we be spending too much on other people sometimes. But anyway, that's one thing that I started doing, and I recommend everyone to do it. And the final one, quit my job. So as some of you may know, I've only had a job for about a month, about 4 or 5 weeks, and I quit. But you know, God just does his magic, because I actually applied to a job the day that I quit, and I just got an email this morning saying that I'm going through the onboarding process and that they are obviously planning to hire me. So that's great. Now, I actually created an entire video about this. I definitely will recommend to check it out. Working in a toxic work environment in your 20s. And don't get me wrong, I do not recommend everyone to quit their job. But in the video, I do give a lot better explanation of how to deal with that and how to ultimately get through that. But the reason why I quit my job, and I'm not going to put too much information out there, but let's just say my manager was just doing very inappropriate, uncomfortable things. And it just got to a point for me where it's like, I'm not even about to go through this. I'm not going to put myself through this. And then it's like, he's already a manager. He's a higher up. He's a this, he's a that. It's like, who do you tell that you're going through this? And then it was just a lot going on. So I was like, you know what? I'm not being here anymore. And it really became a toxic work environment for me, because I'm not going to lie. As time went on, he was doing like little things, and I would kind of brush it off. I kind of wouldn't try to think too much about it. First, because at first I thought he genuinely was just a nice guy. I guess I learned my lesson. And then it got to the point of it becoming, I realized me thinking he was a nice guy gave him what he thought was an invitation to do more things, and then more things and more things. And I was like, you know what, this is full-blown inappropriate. Like, no, I'm not going through this. So I left my job. But I noticed it was having a negative impact on my mental health, on my thoughts, on just everything, simply dealing with that environment. And I think a lot of people go through that. Now, don't get me wrong. I am blessed to be in a position that I have other income sources coming in, and I literally got a job the day that I quit that job. I went on an interview and everything. So yes, I was able to get another job. I'm not saying it's easy just to quit your job, but I think a lot of people don't understand the mental impact that working in a toxic work environment can have on you. But we stay in it because we're told that we might be seen as weak, or we stay in it because we have bills to pay. Like, I'm not saying that it's the easiest thing to do, and that's why I say I explain it more how to do it in the video, or other options that you have in the video. But quitting my job has made me so happy. Obviously, for the time period until the whole onboarding process does happen, I have more time to put in the channel, which is something that I love to do, which is great. But also just not being in that environment, because the crazy part is, and I know it was also him that brought a toxic work environment, because in the beginning of me working there, he was not my manager. My manager actually got moved and he became my manager. And that's when I noticed a difference. And mind you, this is my first time working a job in 4 years. And I can honestly say I've never worked in a toxic work environment before. I've never dealt with anything like this. And so I didn't even know how to wrap my brain around it. Because I feel like this is just stuff that I be seeing on TV, or I hear about a girl says her manager did this or he did that. Like, I never experienced this before. And I actually don't even know anybody has went through anything like this before. So for me, I didn't realize it was a toxic work environment, but I did realize the mental hold that it had on me, because I would constantly think about it. Like, am I making a big deal out of this? And he said this, and he did this, and da 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 da. And don't get me wrong, to each his own on their situation and what they're going through. But I think a lot of people would live a happier life if they just got out of the toxic work environment. As I said, I know everyone, it's not easiest to just quit their job. I know for everyone, you know, you've probably been in your job for years, and there's so many things that go into it. But at the same time, I just don't, going back to what I said about having options, like I just don't want anyone to ever feel like in life, the life that they're currently living right now is the last life that the only life that they have. Like, you can change your life. You can change what Hannah Montana said, you can change your hair and you can change your clothes. You can change your mind. It's just the way it... Let me stop before I get copyrighted, because you know, yeah, I know. You know, I know. Anyways, but yeah, I don't know. I just feel like you can change. Like, don't feel like you can't change. Don't feel like this is what it has to be for the rest of your life. You do have to just put yourself in positions to change, and there's that as well. A lot of times you have to change the things outside of work to eventually change the things inside of work. But I don't know, I think a lot of people would be a lot happier if they quit their job. But that's what I did. I was in a toxic work environment and I quit, and I'm so much happier. Yeah, and then the way I did it was just like a walkout. Like I've never, I don't know, I felt like such a a boss. Like, yeah, you making me uncomfortable. Yeah, I don't want to be here. Yeah, skedaddle, skedaddle. I know that's not, ideal for everyone, but I don't know. It just made me so proud standing up for myself, and it just made me so proud putting myself in a situation where it was, or taking myself out of a situation that was no longer beneficial for me and that was actually wreaking havoc on me. So thank you guys so much for watching my video. As you may or may not know, this is a series. So I'm going to add the playlist to the end of the video. You guys can check it out. I don't even know what number we're on. We're probably on number like 6 or something like that, or 5 of the videos. So make sure you check those out if you did like this video. And of course, do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and come back for new videos every Sunday, Wednesday, Friday. Thank you so much, and you all have a great one.